Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope you're doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you. Sans Road Dog this morning. Boy, got a couple things coming up and we need to get this done. So here we are. Hope you're doing good. Okay, so Road Dog has texted me a few questions for today, so I'm going to rip through those. Question number one, help me with a framework for controlling costs of a company on the move. Okay, that's a good question. I'll just say this, McDonald's do not spend an extra dollar on French fries that they don't need to. They do billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. They could afford to spend as much on French fries as they so choose, as well as burgers and everything else. And that's what the biggest companies do. They control costs on the way up. Guess what the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the chiropractor, the dentist does not do? And your instincts are correct. They do not control their costs, especially as revenues start to increase and they start to experience a little bit of profitability. Money starts hitting the bank account. They loosen those purse strings, and that is the exact opposite of what you will find the biggest companies, the most successful companies in the world. So, but look, controlling costs, like cost reduction. It's not just about cutting costs and controlling costs. It's about finding a new and better way to do things, finding a new and better way to solve problems, or your problems or your client's problems, as the case may be. If I were to give you, what's a way of thinking about this differently as a coaching company? Like if you spent 30 minutes of your coaching call doing a mini one-to-one seminar, which is ridiculously similar, one-to-one with your coaching client, I think that's an error, right? So your coaching should be about execution and implementation and accountability, right? So a new way of coaching is what I'd be thinking about, and the way that we train on it and the way to encourage you to do it is think about, send your client, say we're going to talk about building a market dominating position, right? So a market dominating position is a unique selling proposition, but it solves the biggest problem for the ideal client. So think about fast food and McDonald's, right? Like it's the original market dominating position for McDonald's is food in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes. So imagine you've got 1 hour on a lunch break. Do you want to spend 30 minutes waiting for your food, or do you want to have your food and be eaten in 10 minutes and now you got 50 minutes to yourself, right? So that would be an example of how they separated themselves initially. And you knew that when you went to go get the fast food, it's probably, it's not salad and cucumbers. You recognize that this is not necessarily healthy, but you want to do it nice and quick, right? So, and then they invented the drive-through, right? So the drive-through stuff's the biggest problem for the ideal client. Just imagine you got 3 kids and you can go through the drive-through, grab a bag of food, put it in the back seat. And by the time you get home after picking up the kids, they've already eaten. Well, instead of getting home, pots, pans, cooking, cleaning, etc., you can have a little bit of time to yourself. Okay. And then they coined the phrase, you deserve a break today. All comes from that. So at the end of the day, that's a market dominating position. So if I wanted to train somebody on that, instead of getting on the phone and delivering that for the first 30 minutes of our coaching call, I would send them a video. By sending them a video, they can watch it 1, 3, 5, 7 times. They can bring in their wife. They can bring in their husband. They can bring in their manager. They can get their sales manager to watch as well, right? So now you jump on the phone and your call is about execution. It's about implementation. It's about creating their market dominating position and then implementing it, right? So anyway, if you did that and, do the same for the bundling, they're going to create a happy meal, upsell, cross-sell. Do you want fries with that? Do you want me to supersize that? You want to form a joint venture. You want them to be able to use social media effectively. Send them a video prior to the call. And then get on the phone for 30 minutes instead of an hour. And again, make it about implementation and execution. Well, guess what I just did? I just doubled the number of hours that you've got in order to build your business. Why? Because now you're doing 30-minute sessions instead of 1-hour sessions. And quite frankly, the video from my experience is significantly more valuable for the business owner. And yes, you need compliance from your client. They need to, you say jump, they need to say how high and not why. That's the frame that you need, like the doctor in the white coat. But at the end of the day, you've now got twice as much time to be able to build your business, right? So anywho, so that would be an example, great example, bad example, but it's very, very relevant for you and your coaching call. You got to make those calls about execution. And then how do you keep them on track? One of the things, I'll tell you this, think about a domino. I always want to be thinking training. Remember, there's studying and then training. Studying is reading the book, watching the video, doing the course. But training is doing it over and over and over and over and over again so that it becomes instinctual. Well, I encourage you, the best clients that we have, the best clients that you will have, the best coaching clients in the world are highly profitable. Right? So you want to translation, profit's the domino that knocks over the other dominoes. So when you're coaching your client, what you're going to find is they want to drag you into the minutia, staff problems, client problems, this problem, that problem, relationship problems, etc. You want to keep them out of that and say, look, you want to have a better marriage. Let's make you significantly more profitable. You want to have that 2-week vacation instead of that 3-day vacation or no vacation. Profit. You want to have staff that's, get in line, stay in line, and really work dogmatically for you. Profit. You want to be able to attract the best staff, better staff. Profit. You want to be able to provide bonuses and incentivize your staff members. Guess what? Comes from profit. So profit tends to be the domino that knocks over all the dominoes. And that's again why I built profit acceleration software. I didn't build revenue acceleration software. I built profit acceleration software. Profit is the domino that knocks over the other dominoes. So as your clients take you into the weeds, they're taking you further away from execution, implementation, and accountability. And yeah, you got to deal with those things a little bit. And I get that, but keep the train on the tracks, and the domino that knocks over the other dominoes, dial them in on profit. How do you do that? Again, you go to, specifically the Jumpstart 12, but the 12 areas that the biggest companies in the world are dialed in on, and I dial in on that. Anyway, so that's an example, but understand that, cutting costs, controlling costs, the important framework is that it's about going to your P&L and going to your credit card statements or their credit card statements, their P&L, and, negotiating and canceling out things that don't get them clients, don't keep them clients. Like if I'm assessing a P&L with a client and I'm looking to be able to cut costs, there's two rules of business. You got to get clients, you got to keep clients. You got to get clients, you got to keep clients. That's Tesla, that's Ford, that's Coke, that's Pepsi, that's your business, that's my business, that's everybody's business. So controlling costs. So if I'm looking to cut costs, I'm asking, as I look at the expenses, I'm asking that, does this get you a client? Does this keep you a client? Does this get you a client? Does this keep you a client? Does this get you a client? Does this keep you a client? And the answer is no. There's a really good argument to be able to cut that cost. Because remember, when your clients earn $1, assume they have 20% net margins, they keep 20 cents. When they save $1, they keep how much? And the answer is 100 cents. If you're $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year as a coach, where's a better place for you to start? Often it's controlling costs, cost reduction, finding a better, but cost reduction, the frame here, what I'm trying to get to, is that it's not just about going through the P&L and slashing and negotiating prices, although that's a great idea, and they're not doing it without your accountability. I can almost guarantee you it's about finding a better way to do things, right? So anyway, there's that. And then he said, walk me through how you'd go about coaching a client. Well, I just said it a minute ago, profitability. They're going to drag you into minutia, and I understand the minutia and the weeds, but I want to dial in and I want to make them more profitable. My experience is they want to have a better relationship with their wife, better relationship with their husband, better relationship with their kids, better staff, better relationship with their staff, Profit is the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. You got to keep them out of the weeds. But simply put, I'm coaching a client. Again, I've reverse engineered the biggest companies in the world. They've all got the exact same 12 areas dialed in. You should dial those in with your clients. Again, that's McDonald's, that's Subway, the UPS store, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, et cetera. Again, I built the Jumpstart 12 a decade ago. Those were these were the companies that were really rocking it. Again, reverse engineered them, and that's what I found. So what do I do if I'm coaching a client? Again, profitability. I start with controlling costs. Okay. How do I do that? I go to their P&L. I go to their credit card statements. You do not need to be an accountant to do this. And I have a look. And again, I just said it a minute ago, but I go through every one of their expenses and I say, does this get you a client? Does this keep you a client? Does it get you a client? Does this keep you a client? Does it get you a client? Does this keep you a client? If the answer is no, boom. And they keep 100 cents on every dollar we make them. They're spending $5,000 a month on rent. And we go to the landlord and we negotiate that down to $4,000 a month and re-up for another 3 years, which the landlord may or may not go for that. And that's okay. All you can do is ask. But if they are successful with that, you just put $12,000 straight into their bank account. If they meet in the middle and they say, look, I'll bring it down to $4,500, you just put $6,000 into your coaching client's bank account that they otherwise wouldn't have had. A bunch of different stuff you could do that, but that's pretty elementary, right? Increasing prices. What does McDonald's do? They increase the price of the Big Mac, goes up, come hell or high water. Does it go up by 20%? Does it go up by 50%? No, it goes up by like 2%. And so do the McNuggets. And they do it consistently and they do it systematically. Guess what the chiropractor and the dentist do not do? I said a minute ago, market dominating position. I go, if you really want to have a great coaching client, you want to have a great business, you've got to be able to separate yourself. That's why I built profit acceleration software over a decade ago. It completely separated us, and our competitors became our best clients in many cases, right? Well, market dominating, I just gave you the fast food and the drive-through for McDonald's, cosmetic surgeon. They create the mummy makeover. I don't need to say anything after I say mummy makeover, and you know exactly who the ideal client is, and you know exactly what they're getting, right? Real simple. And then you come up with a catchphrase, something to the effect of, how'd you like to get the body back you had before you had kids? And then if they like that, and we've got a huge success story around this, all of a sudden that becomes the back of the business card, the top of the ad, the top of the landing page, the top of the website. They answer the phone. If you're looking to get the body back you had before you had kids, you've called the right place. How can I help you? Okay, so you take the market dominating position and you litter it throughout the business. You got a construction company on budget, on time. It's the back of the business card. It's the top of the, instead of the name of their company being at the top, that's what goes at the top, right? So, and then again, bundling, right? McDonald's have a little thing called the Happy Meal. Guess what your client isn't doing? They're not creating a bundling offer. Upsell, cross-sell. Do you want fries with that? Do you want me to supersize that? Right? You're working with a lawyer. Do you want a will with that? Right? Joint ventures. You go to Walmart. What's there? McDonald's. And, so again, they've got joint ventures in place. You go to a gas station. What's there once in a while? McDonald's. Is it in every gas station? No. Remember, marginal gains. They're not. You don't necessarily, when you're doing profit acceleration, or you want marginal gains working in your favor. Basically, it's actually based on marginal utility theory, but just think marginal gains, marginal utility theory. Marginal utility theory is compounding financial results without the use of time. Okay, so compounding, I think it was Albert Einstein referred to it as the eighth wonder of the world, which that may or may not be true, by the way, but that's out there. But the bottom line, compounding, no doubt you know about that and the power of it. You don't need home runs. You don't need grand slams. You don't need triples. You don't even need doubles. You need singles. Okay. The movie Moneyball was based on the exact same theory. They hired a mathematician as the assistant GM, and he basically said, look, we're doing it all wrong. And Billy Beane's the manager of the Oakland A's. What, us, the Oakland A's? He goes, no, the sport of baseball. He goes, we're paying all these guys $20 million a year. And by the way, today they're making a hell of a lot more than that. But we're paying these guys $20 million a year to hit the cover off the ball. And the data clearly states, and here's 100 spreadsheets to prove it to you, that the guys that get on base are the guys that win the baseball games for us. These are the guys that we need to be paying. These are the guys that these are the guys that have loaded throughout our lineup. They did it, and they literally they created a movie, wrote a book. I believe they wrote a book, and they definitely made a movie about it, Moneyball, right? And that analytics today is littered throughout every sport, and that was pretty much the foundation of it. So you small incremental changes. You don't need to create the world's greatest upsell, the world's greatest cross-sell, the world's greatest market dominating position, the world's greatest bundle, the world's greatest additional products and services, right? So McDonald's, that would be the McFlurry and the McRib and the McPizza and the other things that they offer. You don't need to hit the cover off the ball. You need to hit a single. Right. So anyway, so I would I'm just listing off areas of the Jumpstart 12, by the way. That is what I'm dialing my client in. That's the video that I'm sending them before the coaching call. And then when I'm speaking to them, again, what I'm looking to do is to get a single, not a grand slam in each of the areas. Marginal utility theory kicks in, which is the foundation of profit acceleration, small incremental changes in multiple areas simultaneously. And when you see the profits, like I do a master class, every Tuesday. You should come, by the way. Very good feedback from it, but I basically just lay it out and I show you how, like, a company that made $50,000 net profit last year, and then I make these 2% and 5% improvements in each of the 12 areas, and you see that, like, basically put $200,000 into their bank account. Like, that's newfound profit. That's not revenue, that is profit. And we'd ever do more than a 2 or 5% improvement. And by the way, yes, it is easy to get I don't know, easy, but you get a 10% bump, a 25% bump. In some cases, you get a 50% bump, even 100% bump with the different areas when you go to controlling costs, raising their prices, market dominating position. But again, that's the example of the triple. You don't necessarily need to do that. You just need to hit a single. So that's my way of inspiring you that it's not as hard as you might think. But so that's what I do. If I'm coaching a client, that is exactly what I'm doing. And frankly, that's what the best consultants in the world, they do. They keep their client on track. They keep the train on the railroad tracks. The end. Anywho, okay. And then he's asked me for my Zen thought, which is always an unprepared. So the whole thing's unprepared. But anyways, look, I read a quote this morning. That I think will be relevant. You'll be seeing it in my daily email probably very shortly. The hardest job, and again, I might be making a meal of this quote, but it's he says the hardest job in the world is to think, and that's why very few people do it. Right? That's Henry Ford, by the way. Think about that. I always talk about time to think. TTT. Take a pen and a paper. Lock yourself in a room. Take notes. Do not get distracted. Don't be drinking water. Don't get up and go go to the washroom. Don't have your phone anywhere near you. Don't have a TV controller anywhere near you. A blank piece of paper and one question on the top. And you take notes for, 30 minutes. If you can do an hour, you'll be blown away at first of all, how quickly the 30 minutes to the hour will go by. But I got to tell you that the revelations, you do it right. And remember, you don't want to just study it, but you want to train on it, as in do it over and over and over and over and over again. So it becomes instinctual. You will be blown away at how good you will get at it. And the power that can provide you. And again, the 30 minutes, the hour just absolutely flies by. I got my phone in front of here. Here's a note from my mentor. I was talking to him earlier this week. And he said to me, I had told him that I bought a $1 million ocean view house when I was in my mid 30s, early-ish 30s. Anyway, the house is worth $3 million today. It's one of the hottest markets in North America, Vancouver. But he said in his reply, and I thought it was really, really good, and I wrote it down. He goes, the cost of never taking a risk is spending the rest of your life wishing you had. And I'm sure he got that from somewhere else, by the way. But the cost of never taking a risk is spending the rest of your life wishing you had. Think about that. Like, how many times have you thought, oh, I wish I would have bought that house. I wish I would have bought that house. I wish I would have bought that house. I remember looking at that when it was 200 grand, when it was 400 grand, when it was 500 grand, when it was only $1 million, and now it's significantly more. Translation, invest, invest, invest. But anyway, so that's something, you don't taking a risk. You're doing yourself a favor. If it goes sideways, you know what? You, just dust yourself off and keep going. But by doing it and implementing and executing on it, your learnings are going to be greater. That goes for your clients, obviously, as well. He also said something else in passing afterwards. And he said, a lot of people, they like their problems so much, they don't want to solve them. Right? I thought that was real. It's like, oh my gosh, that was a writer downer for sure. Like again, people are just there. The biggest addiction in the world is not sugar. It's not heroin. It's not gambling. It is alcohol. It's problems. People being addicted to their problems. Speaking of problems, actually, here's something that I wrote in an email very recently. And I got to tell you, I think this is one of the most powerful exercises you could ever do. And it basically looked a little bit like this, like close your eyes. I want you to really, really dive in, like really, really imagine yourself as a 90-year-old. Okay. As in you, not a 90-year-old, you at 90, right? Like, so you're going to be out of sorts. You're going to be frail. Caring for yourself is probably something at this age that's going to be very challenging to do. You might be in a home, what have you. You choose your journey. I want your imagination at play here. Where are you at? And then I want you to hold yourself in this space, right? Like really hold yourself in this place for a minute. Like become yourself at 90 years old, right? You might even want to use those spatial images thing where you can see yourself at 90 and maybe look at it before you start the exercise. That might make it more powerful for you. But holding yourself in this space. Now, as the frail 90-year-old, what are you going to wish for? I would dare say a continual wish is that you could be younger again, that you could go backwards, right? And again, you hold that thought, and then guess what? Your wish is granted. You open your eyes and you're right back where you are today, where you wish that you could be, right? Think about the power. When you think you've got challenges and issues and dramas, and we've all got them, starting with me, I got to tell you, that is a powerful exercise. And again, one of those things, like you could study it, you could listen to this, but if you do it over and over and over and over again, and it kind of became instinctual, where you often, as you were going through tough times and challenges and issues and things that were uncomfortable, and you took yourself into the 90-year-old you, and then made that wish, and then boom, you're back here today at your current age and your current situation with your current able body. I think that'd be really, really powerful, especially if you have a young family. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. I do that. And I got to tell you, the world just melts away. And I go lay with my daughter. I rub her feet. I chat to her, and, just very, very present. And I just hang with her, right? And just chill. Because again, she's 11 years old. We all know time bloody flies. You get older. Like age is like a roll of toilet paper, where the first half takes forever and the second half goes super quick, right? You know what I mean? We all know that she is going to be 15, 16, 17, 18 before I know it. And she's not going to be as excited to have daddy, rub her feet, lay with her, rub my hands through her hair, etc., and just kind of be present with her. She's going to, Dad, get away from me. You're embarrassing me, etc. Those are coming. Anyway, so I don't know. I think that might be powerful for you. Experiment. So there you go. That's what I got for your Zen thought. Nothing else comes to mind. Road dog. Let's text me. Okay. The next question is, talk to me about the power of no. Okay. And this is something we've talked about in the past in different ways. Obviously don't need to say it, but very, very powerful to have the bandwidth, the wherewithal, the willingness not to be a people pleaser, but to say no. Like if I channel my inner Warren Buffett, I just tell you that the most successful people say no to almost everything. They have a vision that guides them, and they say yes to that. And then they say no to everything else. Remember, no is a decision. Yes is a responsibility, right? No is a decision. Yes is a responsibility. And by the way, not only was it Warren Buffett, but many, Steve Jobs was like, if you listen to the, interviews and that sort of thing, Joni Ivey, in fact, I listened to him talking about Steve Jobs within the last week. And he said that Steve Jobs, he was known for his dogmatic ability to focus, just dial in. Okay. And really what that is, focus is really saying no and saying yes to one thing and saying no to 100 things if you think about it. And by the way, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, they went all in on basketball. Brady went all in on becoming the best quarterback he could be. Right? They were totally focused. They were totally dialed in. They said no to, and to say they say no to everything outside of football, say no to everything outside of basketball. There was a time in Michael Jordan's career where he started to get taken a little bit with the fame thing and doing movies and doing TV commercials. He said, you know what, it was becoming a distraction, and he needed to go all in on basketball, all in. And Kobe Bryant was absolutely famous for that. You watch an interview by him, even most people don't know, but Kobe Bryant was well on his way to becoming a billionaire. He was incredibly successful in business. And I would tell you that, so these guys are focused that I'm describing, and gals are focused that are uber successful. But rather than dialing in your focus, right? So rather than concentrate on getting focused the way Steve Jobs did, a better way of thinking about it is eliminating distractions. So real focus done properly is about eliminating distractions. Okay. And translations, that's saying no instead of yes, just a different frame. And notwithstanding, having a powerful vision that leads you on your decision making will make it 10x easier for you to know what to say yes to, what to say no to. A couple examples that I've given many times in the past is like Zuckerberg, when he was growing, he said, does it help us grow? Okay, so you were a manager and you wanted to get a meeting with Zuckerberg, right? As Facebook was growing, you'd send in what it was to talk about. He would look at it. Does it help us grow? And if the answer is yes, you'd get the meeting. If the answer was no, you didn't get the meeting. It's that simple. He was totally dialed in. Does it help us grow? Does it help us grow? That was his vision. That was the North Star, right? And Gary V, does it get me attention, right? Like, again, if you had a room of 100 people and I had a room of 1,000 people, which room is he going to? More eyeballs, more earlobes. He's going to the bigger room. Why? It's going to get him more attention. You got a room with 100,000 people. He's going to that 10 times faster than he is the one with 10,000, right? So question for you, what is your North Star? What is your vision? Right? Something like running a local live event every week for 52 weeks could be an example. Don't do it for the clients. Don't do it for the money. Do it to educate the local business owners so that they've got a chance. Remember, 90% of small businesses ultimately fall over. You have got the ability as a business coach, as a business consultant, to adjust those numbers locally. That's why you want to do 52 events in the year. And I say that because you always do more for other people than you'll ever do for yourself. So you're dialed in on the money, you're dialed in on the appointments, etc. When things get tough, it can be real easy to say, yeah, not doing that, right? So anyway, have a North Star, have a vision, and then that's going to allow you to understand what's a distraction and what should be focused on and what you should say yes to and what you should say no to. And by the way, guess what? Your coaching calls or your coaching clients, same thing. Like, what's their vision? What's their North Star? And by the way, don't make it about money and whatnot, right? You want to make it about solving problems and delivering value to ideal clients, right? So I'll also say this. So I'm just thinking like an example for a coach. Like, if I always say, if you can sell, you can't coach. And if you can coach, you can't sell, right? A little bit of an exaggeration, but I'm pretty close. But if you're in the side where you suck at sales and you're really good at the coaching and the consulting, maybe your North Star needs to dial in and study at the highest level, the books, the videos, the courses, get on YouTube for the next 12 months and really dial in your ability to sell. Because remember, you get a 1% improvement every day for 365 days, you get a 37x return. Right? So I don't care how bad you are at sales, with 37x your talent, you're going to be pretty damn good at it. So you're going to say no to everything that is not in this realm. That's simple, right? If you're on the other side of the coin, you're no good at coaching, you go all in the coaching, 1% a day for 365 days, we would 37x your talents, right? Like, if you're really good at the sales and you suck at the coaching and you can't get somebody to say yes to your coaching, should you coach them for free? I went for 30 days, for 60 days, for 7 days, for 14 days. right? Coach them for free for a period. Why? You'll be sharpening your saw in your coaching abilities. And what I said earlier, getting them dialed in on profitability, going to things like the Jumpstart 12 and just going to the 12 specific areas and just working on those 12 areas and keeping out of the minutia, keeping them out of, the relationship challenges and the staff challenges and the marriage challenges, the health challenges, et cetera, that they've got. And yes, those things need to be addressed and helped out with, but you got to keep that at the 20% max. You got to keep 80% of your time, 80% of their focus dialed in on becoming more profitable, because that's the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. And remember, anything around the power of no. No is a decision. Yes is a responsibility. And be very, very careful to take on too many responsibilities. And lastly, he wanted to ask me about valuation. Again, good question. I was sponsored at the age of 21 by the president of National Small Business Australia. By the way, not because I was smart or good looking or anything along those lines, or just right place, right time, great mentor. Quite frankly, many a days I wake up and feel incredibly grateful for getting that opportunity at a young age. But I'll just tell you what he taught me, something that sticks. He taught me a ton. But one of the things he taught me is, Karl, don't build anything you can't sell, right? So valuation, like, it's become very, very sexy after shows like the Shark Tank, right? Shark Tank's one of the most popular shows on TV, right? So like enterprise value rather than just dialing on, cash flow profit. But remember, a more profitable business is going to get a significantly higher valuation. A profitable business is when you can sell. An unprofitable business is when they're going to probably say, no, thank you. And yes, there's incredible nuances to that. But, this was a superpower of Bezos's big time when he's building Amazon. So lots goes into a proper valuation. But the five things that make it up are this: it's predictability, sustainability, growth opportunities, threats, and then scale. Okay. So let's say, like, we've got a program where our folks build a team of 10 coaches, right? So if they build up a team of 10 coaches, and let's just assume that, they're making 10 grand a month, 120 grand a year net, on that team. Could be more, it could be less. There's all kinds of dynamics, but basically they build up a team of 10. Okay. So if they've had 10, let's assume that those folks are paying them, right? So again, this is a revenue model. So they're paying them and they're netting $1,000 in accounts per month, and there's 10 of them. Basically you'd have like you'd get like a 3x multiple on that. But if you've only had them for 3 weeks or 3 months, you don't really have a valuable asset. But if they'd all been around and paying monthly for 3 years, you know what I mean? You've got a $300,000 asset, because on the back side of that, it's more predictable. They've been for 3 years. It's more sustainable. They're obviously getting an incredible amount of value. The growth opportunities, you've only got 10 of them, so they're not great. But at the same time, you got 10 people that have kind of low-hanging fruit on steroids that have been around for a long time. You're going to be able to sell them other things. And then threats. Look, they've been paying for the last 3 years. Why are they going to stop, right? You can only assume that things are going well, right? And could you scale it? Yes, you could. So let's assume that you then built it up to 100. And on those same numbers, that would be 100 grand a month. That would be $1.2 million a year. And because it's bigger, as the numbers swell and they get bigger, you get a bigger multiple. Okay. So a bigger company will get a bigger multiple. So instead of giving a 3x multiple, I give a 4x multiple of that. Now you got like $4 million asset instead of a $300,000 asset. And again, you get a higher multiple. And why? It's more predictable. It's more sustainable. The growth opportunities are significantly greater because you've got 100 folks now instead of just 10. The threats are dramatically diminished because you got 100 people that have been paying for 3 years. But remember, if you've only had them for 3 months, you're not going to have a $4 million asset. You had those people paying you for 3 years, you've got an asset. And then scale, because of the way it's designed. And, our clients, they sometimes build a team of coaches and then they adopt our 40 staff as part of that model so they can continue to scale, because the hardest thing to do when you take on a business coach is to train them. So we train the coaches on behalf of them on that model. So anyway, so that's a loose example. At the end of the day, when you're really thinking about valuing a company, think predictability, sustainability, growth opportunities, threats, and then scale. And remember, scale is when revenues grow up, but expenses stay the same. Growth is when the revenues go up and the expenses come along with it. Not necessarily at the same pace, but they continue to come up. Like Facebook could plug in 1 million people today and not hire a single person, right? So that's scale. A construction company can't 10x and then hold steady on their expenses. Not going to happen, right? There's a massive expenses and staff required. A landscaping company is going to be the same, right? So they don't have those scalability, so they're not going to get the multiples that a SaaS company could get, right? And by the way, so when you're valuing a company, one of the big things that will be, like a professional investor looked at your company, one of the things they look at and what devalues a company and makes it a lot less attractive and diminishes the multiple is concentration risk, right? So over-reliance on one staff member, over-reliance on one client, over-reliance on one product, basically over-reliance on one anything, basically, right? Because simple scales, complexity fails. Again, as they're growing, they're probably becoming more complex. And what they really want to do is become simpler, scale back, which is easier said than done. But if you look at Apple, they sell, like, for the revenues that they do, they have an insanely small number of products that make that up, right? So again, they've gotten, and not that they have a simple business model. That would be incorrect, by the way, but no doubt you get the idea. It's certainly complexity is something that they stay away from. And Steve Jobs was famous for taking the iPhone and just taking things away and trying to make it, what he thought was beautiful, but like just something really, really simple. Remember, if you really think about it, simplicity is significantly more difficult than complexity, right? So the bottom line, lots goes into valuing a company, but those are the things. And I might just leave you with this higher level thought. Like everybody, like exit strategy. There's you go to Amazon and you try find a book on exit strategy, you're going to find hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, right? So there's no shortage of books on exit strategy. It's sexy and it's going to sell, right? But what I think a significantly higher level thought is, how about you build a business you could sell tomorrow, but don't want to? Wouldn't that be cool? Like imagine if you had 100 business coaches working underneath you. Yes, you could sell that company, but wouldn't that be pretty cool if you were supporting 100 coaches and instead of answering the questions of the chiropractor, the realtor, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you were dialing in on the coaches? Wouldn't that be a fun business to have, to be the mentor of the mentors? So anyway, so I think a higher level but guess what? Try find a book with that. Right. And by the way, if I wrote that book tomorrow, it wouldn't sell very well. Why? Because exiting for multiple millions is really, really exciting. It's sexy. The 4-hour work week. Right. People read that, like they buy the book, they read the title, maybe the first chapter, don't actually read the book. If you really read the book, it's a lifestyle book and it's about 80-20. It's not really about only working 4 hours a week. And as Tim Ferriss was going up, he's the first one to tell you, nobody's working 4 hours a week and expecting to kick butt, right? It's just not happening. Somebody comes along and works 8 hours a week and all of a sudden they're going to double your production, right? Somebody comes along and works 80 hours a week, you're just not going to be able to compete. And and then your mind might go to AI or whatever. Believe me, just, the biggest dog, one of my buddies is a big dog at NVIDIA. In fact, I spoke to him 2 nights ago, working on robots and AI on steroids. And Jensen Huang, he's very good friends with Jensen. He, has beers with him, kids hang out, etc. First of all, his words, he's just no denying he is an absolute genius. But he's also he's described as the hardest working guy that he's ever met. Okay. And believe me, my buddy that works in NVIDIA is a very, very hard worker, right? Like 80 hours a week is not a push for him. So anyway, working your butt off, but, build a business you could sell tomorrow, but don't want to. I think that's a significantly higher level frame than exiting, but people aren't thinking along those lines. So anywho, folks, that's what I've got for today. I hope all was good. Appreciate you guys, and we'll be back next week. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.